Thomas Markle, now 80 years old, is reportedly recovering from multiple strokes while simultaneously planning to walk down the aisle with his Filipina nurse girlfriend. That single development alone carries enough emotional weight and dramatic tension to fuel an entire season of reality television. Yet within the Markle family, it is simply another chapter in an already turbulent story. News of this relationship spread quickly, rippling through royal watching communities and media outlets, with sources suggesting that Meghan is deeply unsettled and unhappy about the possibility of her estranged father finding love again. When you pause to consider the full context, the situation becomes layered and complex. Thomas Markle has not spoken to his daughter in over 6 years. He famously watched her wedding to Prince Harry from hospital bed after suffering a heart attack, and in the years since, he has repeatedly appeared in interviews, sometimes defending himself, sometimes criticizing Meghan, and often pleading for reconciliation. His health has deteriorated significantly, with strokes leaving him struggling with speech and mobility. As a result, he now requires consistent care, which is how his nurse entered his life. Over time, that professional relationship appears to have evolved into something more personal. What makes this situation particularly striking is not simply that an elderly man has found companionship late in life, but the broader implications surrounding family legacy, inheritance, and public perception. Meghan Markle has, over the years, distanced herself from nearly every member of her biological family: her father, her half-sister Samantha, her half-brother Thomas Jr., and various extended relatives. All of them now exist outside the controlled narrative she has built for herself. The introduction of a new figure into this already fractured dynamic, a woman who may have her own voice, perspective, and experiences, creates a new variable that Meghan cannot easily manage. The timing also adds another layer of intrigue. Meghan and Harry have faced challenges in maintaining their public influence, with reports suggesting that their Netflix projects underperformed and their Spotify deal ended under strained circumstances. Against that backdrop, this personal development in Thomas Markle's life threatens to draw attention away from their carefully curated image. If Thomas were to remarry and his new wife chose to speak publicly, it could disrupt the narrative Meghan has worked to shape. Before jumping to conclusions, however, it is important to understand how this situation came to be. The woman at the center of this story remains largely unknown. Details about her identity are scarce, though it is reported that she is a Filipina nurse who began caring for Thomas after his strokes. She assisted with medications, daily routines, and physical recovery. Over time, that consistent presence may have fostered emotional closeness. For an elderly man dealing with declining health, isolation, and estrangement from his daughter, such companionship can become deeply meaningful. Loneliness often amplifies the importance of human connection, especially when one's social circle has narrowed significantly. A caregiver who provides not only physical support but also emotional attention can quickly become a central figure in someone's life. While it is natural for observers to question the dynamics of such relationships, particularly when they involve vulnerability and dependency, it is equally important to avoid assumptions without evidence. Relationships between caregivers and patients have long been subject to scrutiny due to potential power imbalances, but not all such connections are exploitative. At this stage, the facts remain limited. We do not know her age, her personal background, or her motivations. What we do know is that Thomas reportedly wishes to marry her, and that decision has sparked strong reactions, particularly from Meghan's side. To fully understand the weight of this situation, it is necessary to examine Thomas Markle's health journey and how it has shaped his current circumstances. His heart attack in 2018, which prevented him from attending Meghan's wedding, marked the beginning of a series of serious health challenges. That incident followed intense media scrutiny after it was revealed that he had staged paparazzi photos, a decision that triggered embarrassment and contributed to the breakdown of his relationship with Meghan. In May 2022, Thomas suffered a major stroke that left him temporarily unable to speak. He was hospitalized and required emergency care, with reports indicating that he had to communicate through written notes due to impaired speech. A subsequent stroke further affected his mobility and independence, leaving him reliant on round-the-clock assistance. These health issues transformed him from a relatively independent individual into someone who depends heavily on others for daily functioning. In this context, the role of his nurse becomes more significant. His opportunities for social interaction are limited, and the people who enter his life are primarily there in professional capacities. When emotional bonds develop under such circumstances, they carry a different weight than relationships formed through typical social settings. The nurse, by being present during vulnerable moments, may have become a source of comfort and reassurance. This does not eliminate the need for caution or awareness of potential risks, but it does provide a human perspective on why such a relationship might form. Meanwhile, Meghan's reported reaction, described as horror or deep discomfort, raises questions about her perspective. One possible explanation involves concerns about inheritance and financial implications. Although Meghan and Harry are reportedly wealthy, financial matters can still carry symbolic importance, particularly when they involve family legacy. A new marriage could complicate how Thomas's assets are distributed, potentially affecting what his grandchildren might receive. Another factor could be narrative control. Meghan has positioned herself as a victim of family betrayal, and her father's continued presence in the media has complicated that narrative. A new spouse, especially one who has first-hand knowledge of Thomas's experiences and views, introduces an unpredictable element. She could choose to remain private, or she could share her perspective publicly, which would further challenge Meghan's ability to shape the story. There is also a noticeable irony in the situation. Meghan herself married for love despite facing criticism and resistance. She framed that decision as courageous and authentic. Now, her father appears to be making a similar choice, pursuing companionship despite potential backlash, and her reaction is reportedly negative. This contrast highlights a perceived double standard. If personal happiness and autonomy are values she champions, they logically extend to others, including her father. The ongoing estrangement between Meghan and Thomas has been one of the most widely discussed family conflicts in recent years. The initial rupture stemmed from the staged photos, but has been sustained by years of public statements, interviews, and mutual distrust. Thomas has expressed regret and a desire for reconciliation, yet his continued media appearances have undermined those efforts. Meghan, on the other hand, has maintained that distancing herself is necessary for her well-being. Neither side is entirely without fault, and the introduction of a new relationship only deepens an already complex situation. If Thomas proceeds with marriage, it will likely solidify the divide, creating a new family unit entirely separate from Meghan's world. Whether this leads to further public conflict or a quiet acceptance of permanent distance remains uncertain. Looking ahead, the potential consequences of this relationship extend beyond personal dynamics into broader questions about family, media, and public perception. Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister, is likely to play a role in shaping the narrative. She has positioned herself as a vocal critic of Meghan and a defender of their father. Publicly, she may express support for Thomas's happiness, reinforcing her image as a loyal daughter. However, underlying tensions could emerge over time, particularly regarding inheritance and influence. A new spouse changes family dynamics in ways that are often unpredictable. Samantha's role as a primary advocate for Thomas could be challenged, and differing priorities may lead to conflict. Financial considerations also remain a key aspect of the story. While Thomas is not considered wealthy by elite standards, he has earned money through media appearances and related opportunities. The extent of his assets is unclear, but any marriage would introduce legal and financial implications that could affect how those assets are managed or distributed. These realities often lead to disputes, especially when combined with complex family histories. Public reaction to the story reflects the polarized opinions that have followed Meghan throughout her time in the spotlight. Critics view the situation as a form of poetic justice, suggesting that Meghan's estrangement from her family has led to consequences she cannot control. Supporters argue that Thomas's past actions justify her distance, and that her concerns about the new relationship are valid. Social media amplifies both perspectives, often reducing a nuanced situation to simplified narratives. Ultimately, this story highlights the enduring impact of unresolved family conflict. Thomas Markle, facing the later stages of life with declining health, appears to be seeking comfort and companionship. Meghan, having built a new life far removed from her family, remains unwilling to reconnect. The introduction of a new partner does not resolve these tensions. It adds another layer to an already intricate situation. Whether this leads to renewed public disputes or a gradual fading of attention will depend on the choices of those involved. What remains clear is that this is not merely a story about romance, but a reflection of deeper issues involving trust, control, and the complexities of family relationships played out on a global stage.